surprising, like in a good way. Like they've, exceeded expectations. There will be a second video where I go over every NBA team's most disappointing player so far. By the way, did you guys hear that Wojnarowski report about the Knicks willing to trade RJ Barrett for Kevin Love? Because I just made that up. But you believed it for a second because it's the Knicks. Before we start, a quick shout out to SeatGeek for sponsoring today's video. If you ever find yourself looking for tickets to a sporting event, concert, a stand-up comedy show, anything that involves tickets in an arena or something like that, SeatGeek is the place to go. It's an app that you can download on your phone, and just through your phone, with a couple quick taps, you can find the best tickets available at the cheapest prices. It has a lot of cool features like letting you preview what your seat vantage point will look like before you actually have to buy the ticket, which is a feature not a lot of ticket selling websites or apps have. If any of that sounds interesting to you, make sure to download SeatGeek right now. You can use the link in the description below, and you can use my promo code MDJ for $20 off of your first purchase. We're starting off in the Eastern Conference going by record. So at the top of the Eastern Conference, the Milwaukee Bucks. And for the Bucks, most surprising player, feels a little weird to say this, but I'm gonna have to go with Giannis. The Milwaukee Bucks are really good. They're 20-3. They're getting production from a lot of different guys, and they don't really have anyone that's come out of nowhere. The biggest improvement for Giannis this season is the three-point shooting. So last season, he was 25% on 2.8 three-point attempts per game, and in this season he's doubled his three-point attempts, and his percentage has gone into the low 30s-ish. It's still below average, but it's much better than last season. It's good progress. For the Boston Celtics, they have a lot of candidates here. Gordon Hayward surprised me and a lot of other people in the beginning of the season before he broke his hand when he was playing at an all-star level. But for the Celtics' most surprising player, I'm gonna go with Brad Wanamaker. First time I heard his name, I thought it was fake. Then I watched him play, and I thought this guy is way too polished to be a rookie. And no, yeah, it turns out he's not a rookie. He's 30 years old. He's just played his entire career overseas in Europe. He gets his chance in the NBA. He gives the Celtics really good backup point guard minutes. Nothing flashy about his game, but there's no glaring weaknesses either. So he's the most surprising player for the Celtics to me. Next, the Miami Heat. A lot of good candidates here. Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Myers Leonard. But I think you have to go with Kendrick Nunn. He's played 22 games by now. It's a good sample size, 15 points per game. He's proven that he's a legitimate rotation player on a playoff team. Before this season, nobody outside of Miami really knew he existed. Kendrick Nunn is a bit of like a one-trick pony, right? I mean, he just scores. That's like the only thing he's good at. But then again, if you're gonna be a one-trick pony, scoring is kind of the one trick you wanna be good at. The Toronto Raptors, their most surprising player, Norman Powell. Last season, it looked like he was regressing a bit as a player, and with Kawhi there, he got gradually pushed out of the rotation. This season, he's not only been in the rotation, he's often in Toronto's crunch time lineups. He shoots the ball with so much more confidence than he did in previous years, and you can tell he put in a lot of work in the offseason. The Philadelphia 76ers, their most surprising player, Furkan Korkmaz. Now, this is partially because the Sixers are very imbalanced from a team building perspective. They have too many bigs, and their one point guard plays like a passing center on offense. So Furkan Korkmaz gets a lot of opportunities to shoot the ball. He's not JJ Redick, but he's done a surprisingly good job filling in that JJ Redick role in this Sixers offense. The Indiana Pacers, Malcolm Brogdon is an easy choice here. I had Malcolm Brogdon as a top 5 most improved player candidate, but he's been better than even I expected. 19 points per game, 8 assists per game. Looks really comfortable in a primary playmaking role. Now, the Pacers offense isn't exactly great, which is why you can't really win like championships with Brogdon as your best offensive player, obviously. After Oladipo comes back, I'll be really interested to see how Brogdon plays as that secondary playmaker. The Brooklyn Nets, I'm gonna go with Spencer Dinwiddie. Dinwiddie has always been a weird player for me to analyze because my eye test tells me that Dinwiddie is like a borderline all-star, but a lot of the efficiency numbers don't even mark him as a starter. There's one part of his game though that I do love, which is his willingness to drive to the rim, which results in him drawing a lot of fouls. He averages almost 10 free throw attempts per 100 possessions, which puts him 9th in the NBA. And if you look at the guys above him, it's really good company. These are all top tier NBA offensive players. The Orlando Magic, Jonathan Isaac. He's taken a big leap forward this season. He's already their best player. No explanation needed. On to the Detroit Pistons. Their most surprising player, a lot of people are going to say Derrick Rose. But I think for Derrick Rose, you saw how good he could be in Minnesota last season, so I don't think it's really surprising. The surprising player is Luke Kennard. 16 points per game, shooting 40% from three, 6.5 3-point attempts per game. He's starting to develop a bit as a playmaker as well, and I don't know a lot of people that had real confidence in Kennard as a starter, but he's proven it so far this season. Onto the Charlotte Hornets, easy choice here, Devontae Graham. You might be tempted to say this is like a good stats, bad team sort of situation, but the Hornets have actually been competitive. They're almost 500. He's putting up numbers in games that actually matter. Now, if I'm realistic, I don't think Graham is a starting point guard for a championship caliber team. I think he's probably going to end up in a 6-man role on a really, really good team. But that's still surprising because last season, he looked like just another rookie that's going to end up in the G League. Chicago Bulls, the most surprising player to me is Wendell Carter. It looks like he put on a lot of muscle during the offseason. He's a great rebounder. I love his quickness as a big man, being able to guard pick and rolls. I didn't think he would be this good defensively this quickly. And, Wendell Carter might be one of the very few bright spots for the Chicago Bulls during this first quarter of the season. For the Washington Wizards, Rui Hachimura. He's a rookie that nobody really talked about, I guess because all the attention was on Zion. Hachimura's skills have been far more advanced than I thought. He has a pull-up game, he has a post-up game, shows some good footwork and fundamentals, really good athlete. He's looking like a steal. For the Cleveland Cavaliers, their most surprising player is nobody. There's nobody on the Cavs team that has really surprised people in a good way. Not for me, at least. I mean, what's the closest candidate? Colin Sexton, who averages 2 assists in 30 minutes per game. I mean, come on. For the Atlanta Hawks, the most surprising player, I'm still going to go with Trae Young. He surprised me, at least. He's playing at an all-star level in his second year in the league. He's just progressed way faster than I thought. His decision-making and playmaking is already fantastic, and the only thing that I think can make him better on offense is playing him off the ball more and running him off screens like the Warriors do with Steph. But at this point, the Hawks just have no other playmaker to make that happen. So this is not even like a criticism of Trae because it's not really his fault. But I'm looking forward to one day when they can do that off-ball stuff with Trae because I think it's going to be awesome. For the New York Knicks, early on in their season, I'd probably say, RJ Barrett. He's been surprising in a good way. But since then, he's tapered off a little bit. And to be honest with you, it's the Knicks, man. I mean, everybody on this team is playing out of position. They have no spacing. It's just not conducive to anyone having a surprisingly good season. Okay, now moving on to the Los Angeles Lakers. Their most surprising player to me, Dwight Howard. I'll admit it. I thought Dwight was done. I didn't think Dwight was going to be a rotation player for the Lakers. I actually thought he was going to be cut after 2 months, but especially with JaVale McGee not playing very well to start the season, Dwight Howard has turned into a very important role player for the Lakers. I'm also, on a side note, surprised as to how much the Lakers are playing Anthony Davis alongside a center. I mean, clearly it's been working out well because they've been winning a lot of games. But I think, in the playoffs, you'll definitely start to see Anthony Davis play more center. Moving on to the Dallas Mavericks, most surprising player, Luka Doncic. I mean, we knew he was going to be good after his rookie year, but nobody could have seen this coming. He's putting up the same numbers Westbrook did in his 2017 MVP season, except Luka is also leading the league's best offense. For the LA Clippers, nobody on this team has really surprised me, but nobody has really disappointed me either. For the Houston Rockets, most surprising player, Daniel House. He averages 30 minutes a game for them. Seeing as he only makes $3 to $4 million a year, that's really good value. And I didn't see him being this important to the Rockets. For the Denver Nuggets, I've been very pleasantly surprised by Will Barton. So the storyline for the Nuggets so far is that the Nuggets are second in the league in defense or top 5 in the league in defense, but their offense is below average. Whereas you'd probably guess those things to be flipped the other way around. And this struggling Nuggets offense has really needed Will Barton's shot creation. And Barton has not only hit shots, he's hit some pretty difficult shots. I mean, he shoots contested threes with confidence. And, they've needed his offense badly. For the Utah Jazz, I think for most people, the most surprising player would be Bogdanović, who's just playing out of his mind right now offensively. But for me, I'm most surprised by Royce O'Neal because I was never sure about Royce O'Neal as a legitimate rotation player on an NBA team. His 3-point shot looks much improved, and he seems like a role player that's comfortable with being a role player, if you know what I mean. On this Jazz team, when you have Bogdanović and Donovan Mitchell, who are just gunslingers, you kind of need a guy like Royce O'Neal, who just averages 4 shot attempts in 28 minutes, and he's been much better than Joe Ingles this season, which has surprised me as well. On to the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'm not going to say Andrew Wiggins is back to being the Canadian Jordan or whatever they called him before he came into the NBA, but he's been their most surprising player in a good way. Basically, everyone wrote him off after last season, and this season he's much better. From what I can see, his pick and roll decision making is getting a lot smoother. Karl Anthony Towns shooting a lot more threes, frees up more space in the paint for Wiggins. For the Phoenix Suns, before Aaron Baines got injured, I would say Aaron Baines is clearly their most surprising player that just kind of came out of nowhere. But now I think you'd probably say Kelly Oubre. He's averaging 17 points per game, which I didn't see coming at all. His free throw rate is up. He's driving to the rim more often. For the Oklahoma City Thunder, I expected Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to be really good, so I'm not surprised by that. I am mildly surprised at Danilo Gallinari. He's adjusted pretty well to OKC. After he got traded, I was very worried that Gallinari would start to drop off. I mean, he's 31 years old. He's had a lot of injuries, but to his credit, he's maintained his production at 31. He can't really jump anymore. I mean, when he drives, he just looks like he wants to draw fouls only, but the shooting is clearly still there. And this is a guy that really uses his height properly. He just shoots over a lot of people. And at 6'10", he's pretty hard to block. For the San Antonio Spurs, their most surprising player, nobody. I mean, it's been a disappointing season, right? So that shouldn't come as a shock. DeJounte Murray still looks uncomfortable shooting. Derek White looks like he roughly what he was in the regular season instead of against Denver. Lonnie Walker had like one good game. So, yeah, we'll see. Maybe as the season goes on, things turn around. But so far, nobody's really surprised me in a good way. For the Portland Trailblazers, this is an easy choice for all of us. Carmelo Anthony. Who would have thought that Melo would be the thing that turned the Trailblazers season around? Now, with Rodney Hood's unfortunate season-ending injury, Melo's going to have an even bigger role moving forward. And I don't even think it's like what Melo does on the court as a scorer. It's also like what Melo does for this team off the court. It just, you can tell by the Blazers' body language. For some reason, they just seem much more excited to play basketball with Melo on the team. For the New Orleans Pelicans, their most surprising player, undoubtedly, Brandon Ingram. His three-point shot is much improved. His playmaking is better. He's not taking as many long mid-range jumpers. I mean, he still takes a lot of floaters and these shots in the paint, but he seems like he can get deeper into the paint instead of settling for just a step inside the three-point arc. And I think Brandon Ingram is going to get a max contract this summer based on how he's playing. For the Golden State Warriors, Eric Paschall, the second-round pick. Nobody saw this coming. Now, he's getting a big opportunity, obviously, with Golden State resting all of their good players. The thing that impresses me the most about Eric Paschall, he's a good passer. This is a guy with high basketball IQ. He's not quite Draymond level yet, but he can get there eventually with more time in this system. He can play outside, he can play inside, he can set screens, he can use screens. He's a very impressive and versatile player. But I do have one issue. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you might have picked up on the fact that I'm a bit of a stickler for shooting forms, because I think shooting forms don't get talked about enough. The only problem I have with Eric Paschall, what is this? Dude, what are your legs doing? I mean, I don't know. It looks like he modeled his jump shot after Nate Robinson. You gotta fix this somehow, man. I mean, come on, you have like the two best shooters of all time as your teammates. Just can you ask like one of them to help tweak your shot for him maybe? But other than that, I mean, he's been fantastic. Looks like another draft steal. Okay, well that's it for today's video. It's gone on pretty long because I've gone through all 30 NBA teams. Stay tuned because I'm gonna be talking about every team's most disappointing player in the next video. But I'll see you then. Bye-bye.